All right, my friends, J.R. Dukes here at your service. Appreciate everyone joining us today. We are just now hitting the live button, so we're going to check and make sure everybody can hear me good. Appreciate everybody taking time out of their busy day to join me. It is always my pleasure to have some time to sit and chat about important things that we both need to be made aware of. Looks like we're doing good on Facebook. Welcome to everyone on Facebook. We are definitely connected up to X. That's also looking good. Hello, Danny. Good to have you with us today. If y'all haven't done so already, do me a favor. Go ahead and let us know you're here. Say hello, introduce yourself, and let us know where you are from. And of course, we got Sapphire in the house. Sapphire Ridge, thanks for joining us today. All right, by the way, if you would like to join the chat, you can do so. I'm going to put a link in the chat right now. Just give me 1 second to take care of a few housekeeping things. Looks like we're good on Twitch. Hello to everyone on Twitch. And then finally, YouTube, of course. All right, everybody's piling in. Looks good. All right, a couple background things here. Today, we are going to go over what's going on in Trump world. Specifically, I've been talking about for a while Nathan Wade. You remember the former lover, paramour of sweet Fani Willis out of Fulton County, the lovely DA, the sweet, sweet Fani is what I like to call her. And of course, I'm being very facetious, but we will talk about that later. At any rate, Nathan Wade, I've been talking about for quite some time that in addition to this so-called RICO case, from Fani Willis fame, there's a lot of issues going on between Nathan Wade, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with Fani Willis as far as him coming up with excuses as to why he seems to charge the state and whoever he's doing work for a ton of money, and yet he really has nothing to ever show for his so-called work. Sapphire, thanks, my friend. I appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. That's very kind of you. All right, let's see. Jennifer, thanks for joining us today. I do not believe that Jim Jordan has responded to Fani's little remarks. She can go ahead and keep playing coy for now, but you know how that is. It's just not going to work out. Cora, thanks for joining us. Georgia in the house with Cora. Thanks. I appreciate that. All right. Obviously, if you have any questions, go ahead, put them in the chat. I would love to have a conversation first and foremost. That is what I'm here for. I'm all about, as I like to say, having that free mind. And I believe when you talk about things and you understand things better, you can live your best life possible. And that, my friends, is what I am all about. Folks, we are in the middle of basically a war that's going on right now. And I don't use words like this to basically just have this sense of emotion or when I talk like this, I'm very, very serious about it. It's kind of like that movie, The Matrix. And by the way, the free your mind stuff that I say all the time was way before The Matrix and was something I was saying way before the song came out. Free your mind. Who was the ladies that sung that? Was that In Vogue or something? At any rate, what it basically represents is everything that the movie The Matrix pretty well brought to the forefront of our thought. And that is the following. What we're seeing with Donald Trump, with everybody attacking him, these woke individuals, these liberal individuals, what's going on in essence is this war that I'm describing. These people think they know best. They think that if they put enough pressure on each and every one of us when we speak out, when we say, hey, this is not right, they think it's like whack-a-mole, that we're just going to go right back down into our field, so to speak, and we're just going to keep our heads hung low. Because most of us, we don't want these type of fights. We don't want this type of pressure. But the reality is, folks, in life, there's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of things that are worth standing up for and speaking up for. I firmly believe that if you don't use your life for something better and more important than just your existence, you're not really living the best life that you can live. And today we live in this world where we have other individuals, this woke class, this ruling class, basically the deep state, telling each and every one of us how we should live. That nowadays we should teach our boys to be girls. We should teach our girls to be boys. In the name of this feminism, we should teach girls that it's somehow unnatural not to want a husband, not to want a relationship with a man. You heard Sweet Fanny say it not too long ago on the witness stand. A man is not a plan. Wow, I wonder how long it took her to think that up. And my point is this: whatever you want to do with your life, that's your choice. But it should not be indoctrinated into our children, into our lives. And there are so many roots and so many spokes and offshoots on this one topic, but it's pervasive. We're living in a world today where essentially what used to be normal is being made to seem obscene, to seem like it's perverted. And yet we have all these fringe groups, all these individuals on the outer circle, so to speak, or used to be in the outer circle, trying to tell us all what to do, how to think. And it's just enough, and we have to stop it. And here's the reality: when you stick your head up far enough and you don't go along with what they want you to do, you get hammered like President Trump. It doesn't matter that he's a billionaire. It doesn't matter he's trying to do the will of the people that have elected him and that are trying to elect him again to office. It just doesn't matter. If you don't go with the line that they are telling us all to go with, then they're going to try to incarcerate you. They're going to take all your money. They're going to do anything and everything they can to make your life miserable, to let you enjoy the experience of living inside a cage. And for me, that's just not acceptable. That is not the way America was designed to be. And the only good thing about what's going on with President Donald Trump right now is it's in the limelight for all of us to see. It's just very clear what's going on. Generally, this type of behavior has been going on, at least in my entire lifetime. I've been the victim of this type of stuff in a much smaller way. However, if you are fortunate enough to do well for yourself and you do not do and say, as this ruling class, as this deep state thinks you should do, then you're going to be taught a lesson in the ways that you see Donald Trump being taught a lesson, if you will, right now. The difference in Donald Trump is he has a ton of Americans like me wanting to see him put back in office so that he can do what he can do to stop this madness, to stop this nonsense. If you go outside of your circle, if you go outside of your lane, so to speak, they will bring the wrath of everything the federal government and or the state government has to bring you down. And it's really just that simple. And you have all these corrupt, evil individuals that are part of this deep state, part of this matrix, if you will, that are right there to stick it to you if you don't do what they think you should do. It's really just that simple. And let's see, Sapphire, the reason I say that is several times yesterday he told Judge McAfee that Judge Chutkan in D.C. has already. I did hear that. I did hear that during the hearing. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I, for one, there's no doubt in my mind that this entire thing going against Donald Trump right now is orchestrated, is planned, and it's all being controlled by some center hub, if you will, specifically the Biden administration, the individuals that are the woke deep state. Most of the time, I need to do a video on this. If you want to know who the deep state is, I'll tell you who the deep state is. The deep state are generally individuals that are not elected. They generally have titles like secretary of this or secretary of that. They may have a title such as an administrator on a state level. I believe there's some positions on the federal level. And generally, they are the smaller agencies that are always trying to justify their existence. For example, like the wildlife folks that are there to protect the wildlife. And listen, I want to see our forest and natural habitat protected just like anyone else. But these people, if you get in their crosshairs, if you do something wrong, they will take you down. They will destroy your life. Generally, these people are the heads of what we call the ABC companies, the ABC government agencies, the IRS, CIA, FBI, and like I just said, the Fish and Wildlife Bureau, these other types of agencies is what you got to really be careful of. So speaking of that, let's go ahead and I want to take a look at our first video that I want us to see because I have a whole list and I don't want to waste any time. This first video, we're going to jump right into Nathan Wade. You talk about being corrupt. You talk about making things miserable for everybody. Uh, you know, terrible, terrible what these people ever get away with. So let me take a second. Here we go. And if you have any trouble hearing anything, just let me know. But listen to this report that is from a few years back, and it pertains to the year 2020 when Nathan Wade was hired to do some work. And they wanted his public records, or I should say, they submitted what's called a public record request because they wanted the government, aka Nathan Wade, at this particular time to produce his work product. And it's very interesting what his answer is. So let's jump into this, and then we will talk about it on the other side.
An attorney helping lead the election interference case against former President Donald Trump and others is under mounting scrutiny tonight after a defendant accused Fulton County Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade of having an improper personal relationship with DA Fani Willis.
So now joining us is 1111 investigative reporter Zach Merchant, bringing us another connection here.
Yeah, and it's important to say right off the bat here, the allegations made in that filing have not been proven so far, but it is not the first time Wade's conduct has been questioned. Back in 2020, after a series of deaths in the Cobb County Jail, 11 Alive filed an open records request for documents related to the deaths. Despite having released many of those documents to the public in the past, the sheriff's office refused to release those records to us, saying many of the cases in question had been reopened as part of an external review of the jail. Nathan Wade's law firm was tasked with leading that review. 11 Alive ultimately sued to bring those records to light. In a filing in October of 2020, Cobb County's lawyer wrote that over the course of 5 months, Wade and his law partner had met with numerous staff members and inmates and reviewed hundreds of files. But when questioned by 11 Alive's lawyer, Derek Bauer, at a hearing just 3 days later, Wade said he didn't have any records of his work.
You do not have a single record in your possession that's associated with the review and assessment that you've been engaged to undertake?
I do not.
Does your law firm possess any records?
No, sir.
As your review and assessment for the Cobb County Sheriff's Office stands today, you have no work product whatsoever associated with that undertaking, correct?
Oh, I have work product. It's just not in the form of documents, communications, or record memorializing, reflecting evidence, or relating to the work as you've put it here.
Okay, well, what work product do you have?
Well, I have obviously my brainchild, what's going on in my mind about it. That's what I have.
In a ruling.
Okay, I got to stop it right there because we have to talk about this. I didn't want to overtalk Nathan Wade speaking because we all know how important this is. But folks, it is just unbelievable how these people think we're stupid. These people honestly believe that there's no repercussions for that. And you know what? On some level, there isn't. In these woke liberal jurisdictions, there is nothing that happens to you, as you can see by what's going on right now with Fani Willis. Admittedly, that's not over, and I don't think she's going to walk away scot-free. But back on track here for Nathan Wade. Look at his demeanor. Look at the smile on his face. Remember, this is years ago, before any of this RICO stuff happened. Obviously, he and Fani Willis and whomever have been in bed together more than just literally. Figuratively, obviously, they have some kind of criminal enterprise going on. And it's just amazing, the hubris of these individuals. So let's dissect this.
You do not have a single record in your possession that's associated with the review and assessment that you've been engaged to undertake?
I do not.
Look at the smile on his face. See how he's got that little smirk right there? He just thinks he's untouchable.
Law firm possess any records?
No, sir.
As your review and assessment for the Cobb County Sheriff's Office stands today, you have no work product whatsoever associated with that undertaking, correct?
Oh, I have work product. It's just not in the form of.
And what he's going to do right here is he's going to literally recite the legal wording that is generally as part of the interrogatories or request for production of documents or whatever. He's just going to rattle it right off. Notice how he's got that slight grin on his face, thinking he's above you, he's above me, and that he's going to just get away with everything in perpetuity. Let's take a listen here.
Documents, communications, or record memorializing, reflecting evidence, or relating to the work, as you've put it here.
Okay, well, what work product do you have?
Well, I have obviously my brainchild,
His brainchild. Well, I tell you what, I don't know what kind of brainchild he has, but I can assure you any brainchild of his is a special child.
what's going on in my mind about it. That's what I have.
I seen another interview, and what he was doing in this particular interview was on basically the same subject, and he literally just pointed, "See, yeah, my work product is right here." That's what he did. I mean, it's just amazing. It's just unbelievable what these people get away with, and they think they have been getting away with it, so they figure we're all going to continue to act like sheep, roll over, and continue to allow these people to rip us off, take our tax dollars, charge for services and work that they're not doing. It's just this big wheel of nonsense in this matrix that we live in. We see it very clearly now with the nonsense that Donald Trump's going through. And on that topic, I have a judge. I'm going to leave you in suspense. You won't believe what this judge had to say. This guy is a sitting judge in one of the largest court of appeals. I should say it's a circuit court of appeals, but we'll get to that in just a second. Let me see what y'all are thinking about this. We want to say hello to Rosemarie Fiera. Thank you for joining us today. Y'all know that's kind of an inside joke right there. That's my girlfriend, so she's always checking up on me. Thank you for joining us. And back to Sapphire. Here's something that smells of corruption. Wade was hired as special ADA, and his law partners had the contract for the county tank team. Yeah, that's exactly right. That was if y'all remember, that was essentially a special contract that they give certain people that you're not supposed to give it away as a favor or to friends. But the fact is, people that are in the know, people that are essentially well connected, tend to get these type of contracts. And this taint work, as Sapphire is describing here, is basically real simple work that pays very well. And they have to, if I remember right, they would look at certain documents and decide what could be turned over, what couldn't be turned over, or what was privileged, what wasn't privileged, because that type of thing comes up all the time. So Sapphire, thanks for telling us about that, bringing that to our attention. American Nana, it's always good to have you in the house from West Virginia. Thanks for joining us. We now have thugs with law degrees. Yeah, it's just the way it is. Gladys, thank you for joining us, and hello back to you. All right, so let's continue on with what we're doing here. Remember, folks, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to put them in the comments. I will stop at certain intervals and look at what comments we have, because I got a lot of different topics that I want to go through. Tonight, I really just want to show what's going on right now in Trump world and how that relates to you, how it relates to me, and this big matrix, for lack of a better term. I think the matrix kind of puts it clearly so we can all see and understand what's going on and how you and me can break free from this. To basically, when we see something on the so-called news, we can decide for ourselves what's going on, and we can kind of see behind the curtain. It's almost another metaphor here, just like the Wizard of Oz. You know, there's someone behind that curtain calling all these shots. Now, I'm going to switch over. We're going to talk about one of my favorite individuals on the face of this earth here, and that is The View with Whoopi Goldberg. And let's see who we got here. Let me get this queued up so we can get the right screen. This is a recent deal that I say we're going to share the screen. Okay, this is Donald Trump on The View. Well, I should say The View is talking about Donald Trump, and this is Sweet Whoopi. They are always slamming Trump, slamming MAGA individuals, slamming the Republicans. They even have one lady on here that we'll talk about in a second that I think her name is Alyssa Fiera, but I think her last name is Griffin, actually. But she is one of these, let's just say she's a rhino, but we'll talk about it. So let's go ahead and let's hit the play and let's check this out. Here we go.
And this, I feel, is really moving. And so I want to bring it to your attention. As millions of Americans observe Holy Week leading up to Easter Sunday,
Yes.
you know who decided to announce his latest business venture. Take a look.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend, Lee Greenwood. Who doesn't love his song, God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book. I'm proud to endorse and encourage you to get this Bible. We must make America pray again.
Isn't it funny that only in America, only in today's time, can you have it where people would be laughing at a man that's talking about Christianity, talking about the Bible? I know in my lifetime, 30, 40 years ago, you would never hear something like this on TV. What is it any of our business what Donald Trump's faith is more than whatever he wants to tell us or not tell us? And what's wrong with selling Bibles? I don't see nothing wrong with the president trying to encourage people to pray. And the fact he's a businessman, he's hawking sneakers and Bibles, who cares? How is that a problem? And Whoopi Goldberg herself, boy, she's got a lot of issues on her own, but it's just really sad. Part of this nonsense that's going on is this taking God out of everything. You wonder why so many people are miserable nowadays, why so many people feel like they're a ship without a rudder. We make fun of people in this type of capacity, and it's just complete nonsense.
Okay, I don't know what anybody.
The last time he was on his knees, he was looking to pick up a French fry.
Yeah, this Joy Behart, whatever her name is, boy, she's a character, ain't she? I just think she's really a special person.
Or a burger, please. By the way, Michael Cohen, who went to jail for him because he was behind that whole thing with Stormy Daniels, and now turned on Trump as he should. According to him, Trump once told him that pastors are, quote, unquote, all hustlers, and that after returning from a 2011 meeting with pastors who laid hands on him, he said, quote, can you believe that BS, unquote. This is hypocrisy at its...
Yeah, I guess somebody appointed her as the judge of everybody as far as knowing who's a Christian, who's not. This woman you're looking at is a complete atheist. Remember, it wasn't too long ago she was in trouble for making comments about Christians. She said something to the effect of that if you've seen Jesus or you heard a voice from God, then you're classic schizophrenic, or at least words to that effect. And you can imagine the backlash that happened justifiably because of those. I mean, how do you even describe those comments other than idiotic, uneducated, hurtful, ridiculous? And the fact she still has a job is absolute insanity.
Most religious.
It's pandering. It's pandering. It comes on the heels of him deciding that he could get the black vote by producing golden sneakers.
Please.
Or do you guys remember the unforgettable tweet about the taco bowls? Where
And of course, you remember Joe Biden. I have that clip. If we get around to it, we're going to watch it today. Of course, Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for him, you're not black. So these folks really have the right soapbox, so to speak, to stand on to judge Donald Trump and talk smack about him. And half the things they say, especially in this clip, are just outright lies, distortions, or half-truths.
it was Happy Cinco de Mayo. The best taco bowls are made in Trump Tower Grill. I love Hispanics. So there's that. So when I see that Bible, I can't help but think of Tim Alberto, or you know, the author who was here when he talked about you can either choose a strong man and the sword, or you can walk in the path of Jesus. You can hold a Bible, you can quote 2 Corinthians, you can avoid the 10 Commandments because they do not apply to you.
When she says 2 Corinthians, by the way, she's acting like she's an authority on what Trump's doing right and what Donald Trump is doing wrong. And you heard her just say, if you're quoting 2 Corinthians, Well, she just told on herself. She doesn't know the Bible. Obviously, I've been in church my entire life, and I've never heard anybody ever refer to 2 Corinthians as 2 Corinthians. We always say 2 Corinthians, such and such. So that's a clear tell right there.
Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not be an adulterer.
He's
Thou
broken
shalt
every
not steal.
commandment.
You can do
And she's forgetting, I believe it's Matthew 7, verse 1, that says, judge not that you might be judged. But of course, it's up to these individuals, to these ladies, as to what we should believe and what we shouldn't believe, right?
all the things, and I won't quote you on it, but you do not walk in the path of Jesus. He is he is not an example of what I.
Yep, that's what I just said. Matthew 7, verse 1. And Sarah, sweetheart, you need to search your soul, your heart, and your choices and make a better
am
choice.
taught in church.
I love
He's
what he
also
says. It's my
selling-
favorite book. He didn't even read the book that he wrote, The Art of a Deal.
He's
He
also
didn't even write the book. He didn't even write it or read it.
he's selling these for $60, and I'm a Christian, and as soon as I heard that price tag, I think of the persecuted church, Christians around the world who risk their lives to have one page of the Bible to be able to read scripture in places like China, Saudi Arabia, Syria, where you can't practice your faith openly, and he's using it to profit off of. Like that tells you all
Well,
you
how
need to
come
about.
I don't know where she comes up with these weird statements. By the way, I believe this is Alyssa Farah Griffith. She was fired, or she left the Trump administration. I believe it was soon after she started working for him. So what you're looking at there and what you're hearing from is not a bunch of ladies that have diverse opinions. They are all woke individuals. And I would say this Alyssa lady, at a minimum, is what you call a rhino.
They
About the
don't see
man.
through this, is what I want to know.
Well, and I would say like a Franklin Graham. What do you think of that? You endorsed him.
Oh,
that you
he's
think that's
he's the worst.
It's Holy Week. And so I cannot say what I would like to say.
Well, can I just quote that there's an old saying, and it's a historical saying that, and I'm not sure who said it. When fascism comes to America, it will be waving a flag and holding a Bible. Take a
Yeah.
look.
Yep.
Where is it? There it is. There it is.
Oh yeah, that looks like fascism, doesn't it? It really looks terrible. Have you noticed the same words, the same terminology they're using all over this so-called legacy media, this woke media, is exactly the same type of statements they made when Donald Trump first ran for office. Absolutely appalling.
Oh, yeah, that's
When
pretty-
fascism comes to America, it will be waving a flag and holding a Bible.
Yeah.
That is what we are looking at right now.
Yeah.
Remember that in November.
It's blasphemous.
Oh, isn't that rich? It's blasphemous. What have we just listened to this whole conversation? The irony here is so unbelievable.
It's so many things. It's not even worth it anymore.
Yeah, no, I can't even listen to that anymore. That is, folks, what do you think about that? Put it in the comments and let me know. Is this not appalling? Is this not blasphemy? Prima facie, what you're hearing right there? I can't believe these folks even have a contract with ABC to put this type of filth and garbage and nonsense. And you know what really surprises me? How does people believe that? What I'm concerned with is that folks keep hearing this and hearing this and hearing this, and in their mind they're thinking, well, is there something wrong with Donald Trump? Is he a person that's going to be a fascist and take over the country? Is he this? Is he that? I mean, we have to talk about it. We have to scream it from the hilltop. This is wrong. These are lies. I call these fantastic lies because that's exactly what they are. And don't be fooled. When you hear this type of nonsense, you know exactly what you're hearing. Hey, I want to take a minute. I want to welcome Monique. This is her first live with us from upstate New York. I would imagine upstate New York is where more conservative and normal people live, I would say. Of course, I have a lot of friends in New York City, so I'm teasing. But it's good to have you with us, Monique. Thank you for being here. There is someone behind the curtain. Yeah, unfortunately, you're right, Gladys. Danny, I wish that these people whom are criminals get that they deserve. Amen. This makes me sick that they send citizens to jail or prison while they are so dirty, shady. But you know, folks, it is true. Danny's right. Whenever whenever they decide to take you out, and I'm talking about the deep state, whenever they decide that you're coloring out of the line, you're doing something that they can just no longer tolerate, one of the many things they can do is assign one of the many prosecutors. I believe to date there's just over 2,300 prosecutors in the United States. They will find a crime. We do not even know how many laws we have in our country. And listen, I have to say something. I want to be very clear. I bleed red, white, and blue. I am a patriot. I love America. I firmly believe this is a country with a special, special blessing from God. I believe we are all here for a reason. I believe the United States is probably the world's last best hope. It's really what I believe in my heart, and I am so grateful to be an American and be here. And there are so many wonderful things about our country, even with all the problems we have now. What I fear, what many of us fear, is that if we continue on the path that we're on, it might not be in my lifetime, it might not be in your lifetime, but in our children's lifetimes or their children's lifetimes, the country that we know and that we love and in which we enjoy all these freedoms might unfortunately be extinguished from the face of the earth. And I cannot allow that to happen. I will do everything in my power to make sure we are all informed, that we have these type of conversations on a daily basis, because we have to discuss these things. We have to talk to our neighbors, our friends, our families, even my own children. I have to have these conversations with from time to time. And my kids are all adults. So if they're listening today, I appreciate y'all listening to your father and at least hearing what I got to say, whether you agree with me or not. And folks, that's the way I am about everything. I may not have all the answers and I may not be 100% correct 100% of the time, but at least listening to what goes on this channel, you'll hear both sides of any particular argument. I tell people all the time, you don't have to agree with me to tune into this channel. As a matter of fact, I want people to tune in from all different types of points of views, and we can have a calm intellectual conversation about whatever the subject is, and we can hold it up to the light, as I keep saying, and see if it holds up. It's really just that simple. I want us all to be better off and to help our country become better off. So Danny, thanks for bringing this up. You're right on. Unfortunately, when they want you and your number is called, this is how they take you out. I am kind of amazed, to be perfectly honest with you, that someone like Donald Trump has not been caught on something sooner, if you know what I'm saying. You got a man that's in his 70s. He has been in business his entire life. As a businessman myself, I can assure you there's always a crime in somebody's past. There's always something someone doesn't want to know. I can guarantee there's something you're thinking of right now that you never want anybody to find out or know. It can be something minor, but there is a crime that they can pin on you. And if you color outside your lane or your line or whatever, they can bring the wrath of God. Now, I have people in my own family. One of them is one of my sisters, and I love her to death. But she told me one time, hey, listen, if you're in trouble with the police or with the law or whatever, you must have done something wrong. You've done something to be in that situation. And unfortunately, a lot of people think like that. What it is, if you've never had a problem, is just simply because you have never done something to the level of where you've caught the attention of one of these deep state individuals. Donald Trump, for example, he has definitely caught the attention of anybody and everybody that's part of this deep state woke political nonsense that's going on. Am I making sense on this? And it's just really outstanding that a man that has done the valuable business he has done in his lifetime, the best they got on him is writing a check to a porn star. Pretty remarkable in my book. So And by the way, if you don't know this, that case that he's scheduled to go to trial for next month, that one out of New York City with that Alvin Bragg, this is a crime that they've taken a novel approach to. It's generally a misdemeanor, but you basically have a city prosecutor, Alvin Bragg, enforcing federal election law. So what it boils down to is this: was that check classified as basically he wrote the check because he's trying to hide whatever happened from his wife, or was it political in nature? In other words, was it an expense that was related to him becoming president of the United States way back in 2016? I would say if it was me writing a check like that, I wouldn't want my wife to find out about it, right? I mean, that's the way I look at it. So what he's going to try to do, and what the feds have already passed on many times, he's going to try to prove to a New York jury, which he might be able to do because they're all going to be Democrats. He may be able to convince them that, hey, he wrote that check not to hide it from his wife. He wrote that check because he did not want to hurt his chances of being president of the United States. That's it. That's essentially what it is. So we'll see. I got a lot more to say about that in the days and weeks to come. So Gladys, Kim Clement, prophecy coming true. I'll have to look Kim Clement up. I'm not sure who that is. And the Lord rebuked them. Amen. And Sapphire, my friend, funny thing. Yeah, Alicia Fiera Griffith used to work at the Trump. Yeah, that's what I was saying. She was originally with Trump at the White House. I forgot her exact title. I think I can pull it up here. Let me see. It says that they consider themselves Republicans, but they've been criticizing Donald Trump and his followers, particularly with the January 6th nonsense. So, at any rate, that's, well, I didn't see her exact title, but she definitely worked for the administration. And of course, once she left the administration, she has joined the Rhinos. We'll just kind of let it go at that. But thanks for sharing that with us, Sanford. Yeah, Paige Schill. Cindy, thanks for being here today. They are what they accuse others of. Yeah, that's exactly right. They are what they accuse others of. Let's see. Fani and her entire office are no better than the criminals they send to jail. Yeah, I totally agree. These people are the real criminals. Can you imagine, in relation to Fani Willis, some of the individuals, I believe there's 15 defendants left currently as of today, some of the individuals charged in this so-called RICO scheme, one of the charges or many of their charges relate to essentially perjury. They made statements that the state believes they can prove is false. And isn't that ironic? They're being prosecuted via RICO for essentially perjury. And what do you think that Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, Terrence Bradley, what do you think these people are guilty of? It's just really amazing when you get right down to it. Sapphire, that's Rich, the 4 to 5 women fascists calling someone else a fascist. Yep, amen. And then finally, see, Danny, I guess DEI is the way they got the job. Yeah, I've said that before too. I question how in the world she could have got a job like that. Yeah, that DEI, I'll have a lot to say about that if I get around to it, because that DEI should DIE. It should just go bye-bye. It should die. Yeah, and then finally Sapphire, yeah. And from what I read, Cohen took out a mortgage on his house. Yeah, that's my understanding too. It's going to be interesting to see in this upcoming trial. You're going to have a convicted perjurer. Do you remember Michael Cohen back originally? You remember him? I remember him clearly in interviews saying, I would die for Donald Trump. I would take a bullet for him. I mean, these guys were tight. Obviously, Cohen was Donald Trump's right-hand man. He's a lawyer, and he needed close personal attention, a man of that type of wealth with all the legal problems that they come across in the normal course of business. And then, of course, this so-called fixer is now a convicted perjurer, convicted of all kinds of crimes, and he served a stretch in prison. And now they're trying to use his testimony. And remember, other federal agencies declined even prosecuting this case because they didn't believe they could prove this case to a jury, and they rightly passed on it. But of course, not Bragg. These people, folks, what's going on here, among other things, there's another part of human nature, and it works like this. They know their life, like all of our lives, are limited, and what they want to do is become famous. They want to have their names in the history book. Alvin Bragg will forever be known in the history books as the first district attorney or first prosecutor, whatever his title is, that indicted an ex-president on a criminal charge. It's just a fact. It's a sad fact, but it's extremely, extremely unfortunate. And they're hoping that if they throw enough nonsense at Donald Trump, if they cause this man enough pain, if they take his money away, if they do everything they can possibly do, especially, and hear this clearly because this is their number one goal, if they can have him labeled felonious as a convicted felon, they are banking that the voters will turn against him and not vote for him for president, because apparently they have some polls that state something that effect. I don't believe that. We know from 2016 when it comes to Donald Trump, you can't always go with the polls. And I'm not sure what the newer polling with that felonious question would show right now today. But I just have to believe that most Americans know this is not a prosecution, it's a persecution. And it just has to be common sense that this is just a game of got you. This is lawfare. This is essentially using the full weight and resources of the state and federal government to bring down a man. This is no different what Russia does in their elections. They don't like a particular candidate, they simply take them off the ballot. I have that one story we ran some time ago that that pretty blonde-headed Russian lady wanted to run. She went before the tribunal, the meeting, and said, no, your paperwork's not in order. You cannot run. And if they deny you the opportunity to run, what do? They do like they did with that Viktor Shenkov, or I'm sure I'm butchering his name, but the Russian guy. They send him to prison. They torture him for as long as they can torture him. And then if he's not dead, they just outright kill him. Don't have to worry about running against a dead man. So that's exactly what they do in Russia and other parts of the world. And now the United States is essentially trying to do the same thing. Extremely, extremely sad. But I digress. It's just the way these people look at things. So let's go ahead and dive into this next video here. If you have any questions about anything we've already talked about, please feel free to put them in the comments and we will get to them. All right, let's take a look at this next video. Let me know if you have any hearing issues or anything. It should.
So
Here we
you know who this is really going to annoy y'all. And I hate to tell you, but he got a big discount yesterday after.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, of course, they're talking about the bond for Donald Trump for that bogus Engeron case and that Letitia James, the elected attorney general from the state of New York. They took that 454, which would have really been about $500 million, and they took it down to a measly $175 million, which is still a lot of money. But I just want you to know what they're talking about here.
After an appeals court lowered his bond from $464 million to $175 million. He's also the first former U.S. president to face criminal charges when he goes on trial April 15th for alleged hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. But here's what he said outside the courtroom yesterday.
Do we have to look at him again?
I respect the appellate division for substantially reducing that ridiculous amount of money that was put on by a corrupt judge named Engoron. In the case of the trial that we just left, one of the many that are going, every single one of them is run by Biden and his thugs. We have a man who just ruled they'd like the trial to start in 21 days or something. And I don't know how you can have a trial that's going on right in the middle of an election. Not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as a quick side note, I am going to tell you, and I think I've mentioned this before too, I'm pretty confident in telling everybody that I don't see that there's any way possible that this case is going to go forward on April 15th. Of course, we'll have to wait and see. They just dumped, I don't know what it was, 100,000 records or something to that effect on the defense, which is President Trump's side of the equation. And the judge is like, no, you should have plenty of time by that date to review the records. Folks, that's the oldest trick in the book, is what they call the dump. Basically, the prosecution has to turn over evidence that shows that their client is guilty. They also are, by law, they have to turn over evidence that shows that the client might be innocent. Well, the way they play the game is the dump. they may give them 100,000 records, and there's 1 or 2 lines buried somewhere in there that shows that their client is innocent. But it's up to the defense team to go through each and every document to find that evidence. Or the other thing they love to do is produce a bunch of these CDs. Remember the older timey CDs that store a bunch of data? Well, they turn over, I don't know, maybe gigabytes and gigabytes and thousands of gigabytes of information. And there may be one document or one part of a document out of all that information that's on there that shows their client's innocence. But it shouldn't be this way. It should not be this way. They should be required to highlight and turn over anything they know. I believe they call it exculpatory evidence. They should be able to clearly define it and show it, because we shouldn't be sending innocent people to jail. But that's what we're talking about here. And I don't see how it's going to go forward on April 15th. If the judge insists on it going forward, Trump's attorneys should say, Judge, I'm going to have to resign off the case if you insist on it. There's no way mathematically I can go through 100,000 pages in 15 days, 20 days, 30 days. It has to all go through one person's mind that's the head of the pyramid, so he can make sure he does not falter in his representation of the president. It's really just that simple.
Well,
He's also saying the criminal trial could make him more popular. Because a lot of his base is going to side with him no matter what. Yes, that's probably true. But is this going to make him more appealing to uncommitted voters? Oh, he's got another trial. I'm going to vote for him.
Yeah, exactly.
How is that going to work?
I guess it makes them feel like they're victims, like he's a victim, they're victims. It's like all of that. But it's like he's got how many?
88 criminal charges across 4 different
I
jurisdictions.
mean, the only thing the guy hasn't done so far is shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue.
Right.
Like he said he could do.
Yeah.
He's done every crime now, and he's running for the presidency of one of the great countries of the world. Just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
Well,
One of the great countries of the world. I wonder how she feels about America. Did you guys hear that? He's running for president of one of the great countries of the world. What American says that? Have you ever heard that? Let's just bounce that back just a digit. Listen to this.
The presidency of one of the great countries of the world. Just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah, let that sink in for a second. These people are nuts.
Yeah.
Well, and there's this myth out there that somehow these trials are going to win him over more voters, and there's going to be sympathy. I reject that as a Republican because, yes, his base is going to be with him, and they're going to vocally defend him. But to this sort of 30%, call them the Nikki Haley voters or the somebody other than Trump Republicans, there is no way hush money payments to Stormy Daniels or this fraud case in New York are going to make them more sympathetic to him. I find it to be just complete lunacy. But I'm thinking about something else right now related to this. Donald Trump, aside from his general unfitness, is destroying the Republican Party. So right now, the RNC has $11 million cash on hand. How much did it have this time in 2020 when he lost the election? 77 million. Joe Biden's outraising him 2-1.
Yeah.
And the Democrats and Biden have 3-1 money cash.
Yeah, and that the money, don't get me wrong, money is important anytime. Well, money is important in life, period. And it's important when it comes to an election. But back in 2016, Donald Trump, I don't believe he put $1 into his own campaign. If he did, it was minimal. And of course, he still won presidency. Why put a bunch of money in it when it's not necessary? And the campaigning has just began. So just because Joe Biden has a pocket full of cash does not mean it makes his record any different or his electability any different. I have seen many elections where the person, or I should say the candidate that has less money on hand end up winning. So it is not a determinative thing as they're trying to lay out right now.
So if you're a down ballot Republican candidate, you're running for Senate somewhere, you're running for the House, how are you not angry? There's not going to be money there to fund your race. It's paying Trump's legal bills.
You should be angry. And, I will say this, and I think it'll surprise people. The fact that his bond.
Hold on, sir.
Well, if they're that angry, they could get out and make their own money, or I should say, go out campaign and solicit their own donations if they're a quality candidate. And by the way, what you're about to see right now, this is Whoopi trying to be the right fighter that we know that she is. She's about to jump down somebody's throat. I don't know if you heard about this on other programs or not on TV. I think it was on Entertainment Tonight, but she's about to scold somebody for taking a picture of her, or rather recording, video recording with their phone. And the irony here, there's so much irony, it never seems to end when it comes to the View, but they're so fun. I have to talk about it. Whoopi was on another video, I don't know, maybe a year ago, talking about a concert she went to, and these individuals would not let any type of filming or taking photography. And her comment was something to the effect of, hey, I paid for my ticket. It's an expensive ticket. I'll take as many pictures or videos as I want. So that's what she was talking about.
I have to stop you with the camera because I can see you. So do me a favor, don't pull it out again. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. What was he doing?
Hang on a second. I got an error on something here. What's going on here? Talk to me. Anybody hear me out there? Let me see what's going on. Okay. Let me see.